Hello fellow modelers. In this video I'll be painting some zombies from Mantic games. These are this is an awesome kit. 28mm scale plastic, you get 30 in a box and they're comparatively cheap. A great way to bulk up your vampire counts, ranks, or to what end you need them to. They're awesome though. In this video I'll be showing how I paint some of these. Now there is a lot of them usually, and so I need to come up with a way that they still look good but it don't take 2 or 2.5 hours to paint a model. So well, this is what I come up with. A white base coat applied with an airbrush, and I try to use the airbrush as much as possible. Simply it's easier to cover quicker, and you could artificially induce shadows much more easily. So that's what I did. Bestial brown was the base coat for the skin. After that was dried, I mixed up some rotting flesh and pale flesh, about a 50-50 mix, and then I put that in my airbrush and sprayed it at an angle, kind of from above, to still leave some of the bestial brown showing in the recesses. This is a great way to quickly shade your model. Probably not really good for won't work well if you're trying to do a master level paint job, but hey, these are zombies, should be quick. After that was dried, used Griffin Sepia, a wash from Games Workshop. Watered this down with about 1 part water and just basically went all over the skin and really tried to make the paint pool and some of the more interesting features like the eyes and mouth and some of the wounds, just to make them pop. Once the wash was dry, I started to highlight the model. I used my original base color of pale flesh and rotten flesh, equal measures, but added about 2 parts water to make it a little bit more brush friendly. I went over all the areas, but leaving just the wash showing in some of the deeper recesses. Like the eyes and between the muscles and the armpits and the wounds, and basically anything that would look interesting I just left obviously showing through. Now it's important to thin your colors. I, for example, never paint with colors directly from the pot. I always dilute my colors with water. It's easier to go over it more times. I mean, you can't really go back and fix a paint job that was too thick, that has paint lines in it. You have to strip the paint. So it's better to do multiple layers, and you have more control over the intensity of the paint as well. So as to, if you want the paint to be more intense in a way in a certain area, you just go over it again. Same applies with washes. Better to thin them out and do multiple coats rather than having to do one coat that is too dark. And that's what it looks like. Now I wasn't really happy with it, so I kind of went back in with some more the wash Griffin Sepia and just highlighted or darkened up some of the areas that I kind of over highlighted. I mean, it's okay if it's kind of messy, at least for me. These are zombies, and this is supposed to be a quick and dirty paint job anyway, so at this point I'm probably spending too much time on it. But what you gonna do? Yeah, for the gravestone I used Trek Primer from Panzer Aces, which is a paint from Vallejo. I thinned this with about 2 or 3 parts water and just base coated the entire tombstone with it. I'm not really worrying about covering the entire stone, doing multiple coats. I'm okay with having the overspray from the airbrush and previous steps showing through. Kind of adds a little effect to it. For the first highlight I used the original Trek Primer and mixing in Bone White, equal measures. I had a lot of water though to make it a transparent paint, so I can layer it on. I'm just doing one layer though, but it's since it's transparent paint, you will have a nice gradient from darker to lighter in this way, and just not important not to have too much paint on your brush, otherwise it will just flow all over the model. So you need to dry off your brush before painting. Charred brown was mixed with Trek Primer, equal measures, to do the shadow part. As you can see, when doing this type of painting, it's good to pull the paint where you want it to pull, where you need it to be most prominent. In this case, darkest. So I'm pulling the paint downwards, making it pool at the bottom of the tombstone, making that part darker. I highlight the edges by using Graveyard Earth from Games Workshop. Nothing special here. Could mention though that it's a nice way to add texture by doing small dots, especially with something that's supposed to be worn looking. I'm not doing straight lines, just doing dots here and there, and maybe some lines, and you create the appearance that the rock is actually chipped and worn with age. So that's a quick and dirty way of creating texture. Looks pretty good. But now on to the fun part, the gore. Using black and Tamiya Clear Red. Not too much black though, just a little to it. It goes a long way. I think I used a little bit too much, but this is a great way to create, dried looking or fresh looking blood. The Tamiya Clear Red has a it's a clear, so it's actually shiny if you're looking for that. And the black, if you add more black or less black, you'll get the more black you add, the drier the blood would look. So I personally think I used maybe a little bit, so I went back with some clear red again and just painting over it, making it a little bit more color. Now the reason I painted the eyes here and mouth is maybe not too realistic, or I mean they are zombies though, so who cares? But I think it looks more interesting. There's a little bit more going on and more color, and I think it looks more interesting having more color on it. Now this is pretty shiny, but I'll be going over the model with a matte varnish at the end to tone it down. Now, Beastie Brown was applied to the cloth of one of the zombies that he has there. Just a simple base coat using about 1 or 2 parts water. Again, just always using water with my paints. And then highlighting with Bone White mixed into the Beastie Brown. Not being too careful here. Again, you could use the texture technique by doing dots and dashes to make it look more like cloth or something that actually has a texture. So this is just a one-step highlight, quick and easy, and moving on. It is shaded using black shade from Vallejo. Just a little bit thinned out with 1 or 2 parts water again to just the deepest areas and some of around the legs to make to show the difference between where the cloth ends and the flesh begins. the water mixed in will help it flow a lot easier and a little bit easier to control. I'm kind of adding a little bit towards the bottom there as well, make it a little bit more dirty since it's supposed to be coming out of the ground. It's just a little something. And we are on to the base. It's base coated using charred brown, watered down. Nothing too special about this step, just putting it on there. I'll eventually switch to a larger brush though. And this goes with the same theme of doing it quick and easy. So I'm just going over it once base coated with some charred brown and graveyard earth. And really watered down, mean beyond the wash, just making it just to add some color on the base. So you can wait till this is dry, because it'll actually look a lot darker than this, and go back again if you need more color. And I've done this a couple of times, so I'm just gonna go forward with different colors after this, and you'll also get the added benefit of them mixing together because they're wet. And charred brown and just black to make it a little bit darker brown. Just putting it on in blobs. This is, in my opinion, easier and quicker than doing a dry brush, and it looks more natural once dried. And you'll see at the end, but I really like this method of doing a base. And it also has a kind of added benefit that the ground looks a little bit more wet, like wet mud or something once it's dried. And now using just pure black, again very diluted, going around doing blobs here and there of course, but also focusing around the objects on the base, like the gravestone, various smaller stones, and of course the zombies. This will make the objects stand out a little bit more. The final color is just pure graveyard earth. I applied in blobs here and there, but also kind of like a highlight at this step, doing the rocks that are on the base, and obviously not touching the models, but highlighting the rocks and the actual features on the base. And here you see next layer, the same color the previous has dried. You can kind of see what we're going for, and it takes a couple of layers to actually make it lighter since it's so diluted, but I think it looks pretty good once done. And on to the final step here. I'll be applying some flock to the base to make it a little bit more interesting using Woodland Scenics products. I have fine turf, and that's the earth color, and I have some scenic cement to glue it all down. I just dip my brush in the dry brush in the flock and flick it on in various places. Now this is a really good product, because once it dries and you apply the scenic cement, it really looks a lot better at this scale than something like static grass which tends to well, dry up in patches and clumps. This will actually show some of the features of the base. Will show through, and the flock will look like it's growing or in between some of the larger features like the rocks here. And also adds a little bit more color to the base. It's looking a little bit bleak. It is called earth, but I mean, there's a little bit green in there if you compare it to the dark brown and black of the base. So I think it looks a lot better with some color in there. Shouldn't be too bright though. It's supposed to look like a dead and barren landscape. Just flicking off some of the excess here with a brush. And moving on to the scenic cement here. I took a bigger brush and dipped it straight into the bottle of scenic cement. More is better here. You want a little drop at the end of your brush so you don't have to touch the flock and move it around. Just let it seep all through it, the base, and it'll adhere it fine once it dries. And this product also dries completely flat. I wasn't too happy with the result once this was dried though, so the flock kind of disappeared a little bit much for me. So I went back in with some more earth flock, the same flock, and just redid the process and adhered it again with some more scenic cement. And finally, the entire model was given a coat of matte varnish to protect it and give it a uniform finish. And it is done. Some quick and dirty zombies. Now, looking at the base here, I think it turned out very well. It looks a little bit better than your standard base coat and 2 layers of dry brushing. At least for me, that's kind of boring. And this is a little bit something different, and also it takes a little bit less time to do. So if you got a lot of these to do, that's something I could recommend. Also, I painted the edges of the base black, as you can see. And that pretty much sums it all up. I hope you enjoyed this little video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.